Greetings. Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, a show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Grivy, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and emo non-fictive writing master.
Non-fictive? Alex Dandino. I don't know what that was.
Well, it's early, so my nonfiction writing is bad as well. But we're gonna leave it in because, like real high school, sometimes you gotta lift the ugly mask and see that hell is a teenage girl.
That's fair.
In today's The Pod Goes Back to School movie, Jennifer's Body. Before that, a little business. Everyone, please go support the show on patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The best way to support the show, the best way to help shows like us meet more fans, grow, turn the lights on, all that good stuff, man. It means the world to us. We work very hard to put a lot of great content over there so that it is worth your time. For a very small donation, you can help us out, and we'll help you out. And you can meet our wonderful Patreon community that we've been developing. We're always trying to add more people and energy and fervor over there. Make it a real high school clique to be reckoned with. That's what we're working on. So please and thank you, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The YouTube, Film Alchemist, subscribe over there. Always trying to get more people on the YouTube. That helps us out a ton. We're on all the socials, including TikTok, trying to get more people over there. That helps a lot, too. I kind of hate what the algorithm has made us. It's fine. Please leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you find podcasts, because it helps us. See, it helps us. We have to do these things, or our voices go unheard. I'm in a real existential thing today. It's fine.
This is good.
It's fine. We're recording these pretty early. A major wild-ass news story happened, and it seems weird to be doing our little podcast after
We're doing our little podcast, having pecan
We're doing our little podcast.
Like,
please give us thumbs and hearts on the internet. That'll make the real world less scary. But it will. 5-star ratings and reviews. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Make sure you go to misfitparade.net. See the short films that we're making. By the time you hear this, we will have started our first feature film, Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole. Our short film, Sugar Tits, is out on the festival circuit. As you can tell, we make high-class, highbrow horror films. Hello. A24, are you there? We're available. High-class horror. Buffet. So go do that. Make sure you check out the video work I'm doing over at Looper, discussing movies on the internet for them as well. Thank you in advance. Woo! Right. Hell is not the American news cycle. Hell is a teenage... Well, yeah, that's true. Apparently, there's a lot of hells, right? There are many rings to hell. One of them is the American presidential cycle. Another one is a teenage girl. As I learned in the film, Jennifer's Body, we've got Karen Kusama directing. Written by Diablo Cody. This was post-Juno, the big earth-shattering Juno. There was a nice moment. Starring Megan Fox, Amanda Seyfried, Adam Brody.
Johnny Simmons, J.K. Simmons, the whole gang.
Yeah, we got one J. Simmons and then a much better J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons is in a lot of schools, we're learning, if you listen to last week's Whiplash. Kind of a beautiful pairing of, like, two brothers, like two twin brothers. They had very different theories on how to educate children and went two ways. If you watch J.K. Simmons in this and Whiplash, this is the classic. We have two wolves inside of us, and the one we choose to feed will dominate the race.
Yep.
I like to imagine that the brother in Whiplash threw a cymbal at the teacher. J.K. Simmons plays in this and chopped his hand off. That's why he's got the hook. Because
nice. I like that.
He tried to say good job to him, and he fucking took his hand off. Charlie Parker. Neither here nor there.
That's good.
I don't know why we're talking about that. When this movie came out, I do remember digging it. I do remember a lot of my friends did not dig it, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of those movies now you rewatch it. It definitely... There are some rough edges on the movie now, specifically because of the way... I think Diablo Cody writes so specifically in her own little jargon, right? There are parts where some of the jokes have not aged exceptionally well. A lot of kind of phrasing where constantly they'll say a word and you're just, what? Like when they're like, the lead singer's extra salty. And then they have to stop and explain that because I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Oh, all right. Yeah. And then later she's like kissing Chip and he's like, why are you salty? And I was like, wait, is that the good thing or does she taste like a corpse now? Okay, neither here nor there. There's just weird lingo all over the movie. The speaking pattern's a little strange. It's got the classic, every line turns into a joke and a lot of them land and some of them are clunky at times.
Sure.
But I think the style, the vibe, the cast, I love the set pieces. I honestly love this movie. I'm not surprised it became a cult classic. Rewatching it, I think I loved it a lot more today than I did when it first came out. I think I just appreciate the kind of odd little gem that this has become. Alex, opening thoughts on Jennifer's Body.
I would agree with everything you said. I think it's gotten better. I actually think the movie's gotten better with age.
Yeah. Well, I think it's different, too, because I think we're close enough to the era where the references make sense, mostly.
We sort of came of age in our movie times with Diablo Cody, so I think we're a little more attuned to that dialogue.
Yeah. She's close enough to our age that it felt like, all right. Like
there's a lot of very specific. I mean, like Diablo Codyisms are just par for the course at this point.
Yeah,
I actually think when you watch movies where she doesn't do it, it's weird, and it actually makes movie like Young Adult's a great example of this. It feels a little stunted, and you're like, why does this feel so funny? I'm like, Diablo Cody wrote this. Like, why is everybody
trying
talking?
To do? It is kind of the weird thing that happens to some directors. Like Kevin Smith went through this, where it's you gain this notoriety for your hyper-specific voice, but then also we get tired of that trick, and then they're like, well, I want to grow and try like a more mature mainstream thing, and it's like, and when you see them do that, it's like you're missing now the thing.
Yeah. I mean,
it is a double-edged sword of wanting them to try something new and air quotes mature, but then you're like, but we lose the thing we love about them in that process.
I think that Jennifer and Needy's dialogue is, Jennifer particularly is the one who has the lingo that I think we're all used to, much like Juno did. Like Juno and her friend are the one who shares like the Diablo Codyisms most.
Yeah.
Everyone else is speaking in what I would call like normal vernacular. Mm-hmm. Jennifer speaks in Diablo Codyisms.
Yeah.
Where everyone else, and I think that's what
she's not like a real character in the movie.
No,
right?
She is this avatar for what turns out to be, again.
Yeah, she's kind of this vessel that holds all of the like high school evils, both forced upon her and dished out. Yeah.
It turns out being, again, I think this movie became, people sort of picked back up on it in the middle of Me Too, which was rightfully so. But I think that that's sort of the second life this movie has had, because if you watch it now in 2024, it has very different. It feels less the satire of like what happens feels a little more relevant. Like it's always been relevant, but for some reason I think, and I remember reading about this last night, like the Me Too movement gives this movie a little bit more weight, I think. It's really fascinating to watch it through that lens, because there's a little more teeth to it than I think people gave it to begin with, which I think is why.
Okay, so yeah, if you read up on the backstory of it, there was a lot of like, Karen Kusama's like, what are you doing marketing this movie?
Yeah.
Like one of the trivia bits was they wanted Megan Fox to do like sit downs with porn stars and promote it on like porn sites. And so they were selling it as like the marketers were selling Jennifer's body, like her fucking frail, petite, unsunned body, right? Like she got down to under 100 pounds in this movie, apparently. And so they were marketing like, look at how hot Jennifer's body is. And then you watch the movie and you're like, the way her body is treated and brutalized and idolized and despised. Because even before the world's shittiest band since No Vacancy, movie speaking, Low Shoulder, saw her as an avenue. This is another thing that stuck with me. Imagine being a band and murdering a woman violently to the Jenny, I Got Your Number song,
dude,
brutally stabbing her, and the band you get to become with your Satan powers is that band who makes that song, and you get to play high school proms. Like, they made a shitty deal, and that's the thing. I think what happened is they didn't do it right, obviously. They didn't do a proper virgin and this and that. So, like, I think we see they thought they had, like, done it. They ain't done it. That song is fucking straight trash. This band is trash.
There's a band that when I was in high school, there was a band that we all we ended up on the bills with a lot of the same bands, and this one band we ended up playing with a lot. And every time I watch this movie, they remind me of this band. The lead guitarist was this kid who every time Tom DeLonge changed his gear, he would change his gear as well.
Yeah. I just love the do you want to be a fucking orangutan barista all day? I don't. It's go time. And it's like, yep, all right, we're going. Anywho, band aside,
the band was called Driver's Side Impact.
Oh, you're just calling them out. You're
straight up. They got a record deal with Victory Records, and I remember being like, "These guys got a record deal."
You're and like in the woods with the flashlight, like, "Where's the young girl's body?" Explain it.
As soon as I saw this movie, I was like, "Holy shit!" Driver's Side Impact totally did it to get that record deal. Absolutely.
Yeah, they Jennifer's bodied someone. Not just my earlobes. Getting back to it though, that scene, that opening scene, we see the classic. A lot of this is these kind of lingering looks and this body horror, right? So even that opening where we do the high school mystique, right, where we see her and Needy waving at each other, and everyone's like, what do they say, lesbigay? It's like one of those things where you're like, nope, that's like an written teenage dialogue thing. But like if you listen to kids now, they fucking sound like they're talking a foreign language. That's just a rite of passage. Oh, yeah. But just because they're like friends and wave at each other, people are judging them and their relationship and this and that. When they go to that bar, right, or when Needy's getting dressed, and it's like when she says what to wear, it means don't do cleavage because that's her thing, but I can't be a zero, but I can't be threatening. So there's this constant hawking of the body, right? When she walks into the bar and every dude's just on her, and Chris Pratt's on her, and like when he pulls the cigarette out of her mouth, I'm like, that's aggressive, and you're taking the bubble away. And then the band's talking about her like she can be used because she's virginal. So even before you get to the occult horror of the film, you get this sense of, look at these fucking two tiny children in this fucking high school, but especially in this bar, where their bodies are coveted in a way that you're like, it makes everyone, the whole world has teeth for them. They don't appreciate her. They all just want to go defile her. Yeah, it's a different kind of body horror. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, and it's not body horror like a Cronenberg, like putting a fucking VHS tape and a pussy in your stomach. It's because you exist and have a healthy, normal body. And that's the thing, is like Needy's protected because Jennifer tells her not to outshine her a little bit.
Right.
It's just all these dynamics of fucking just the fear of being a woman, a young woman, women at the kind of point in their life where they're now making adult decisions, adult sexual decisions, and the kind of, wolf in the woods of that moment. So before you even start that, and again, I think the thing the movie does exceptionally well, I think this movie does a lot exceptionally well, but I think what Diablo Cody nails is just this kind of dynamic of high school relationships that while, I mean, I've said this on the movie, I love teen melodrama because one of the things that is so funny in them is the way everything to teenagers is like world shattering.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so melodramatic and overhyped that I kind of love it. Right. I think they're really fun shows. This movie reminds you that sometimes when you're that age, there are severe, scary consequences around every corner.
Shattering consequences for certain.
And consequences isn't even the right word, because that would imply like it's an effect of something you did, right? The consequence is just they chose to be in a place where fucking other human beings are that want to be predatory. So it's this. It reminds us that high school is fun.
Predatory.
The dynamic is fun. The world gets fucking scary. And then the other thing this movie does well is that the relationship between Needy and Jennifer is the star of the film. That is what we all pay for. That's what pays off the most, to where we watch these two friends suffer a trauma, right? A body trauma, right? That, metaphorically and literally is playing out before our eyes. And we watch the way they even start to change and turn on each other. And it's sad and cathartic, because it's not Jonathan Harker going after Dracula, right? These were two best friends, and through nothing that Jennifer did, she's been mutated into this horrifying stereotype that everyone assumed she was. Like, at one point we hear Needy say to Chip, Jennifer's evil, and he goes, yeah, I know. It's like, she wasn't evil. She was a fucking teenage girl, a hot girl, or whatever, a popular cheerleader. But that's a stereotype. And now she actually is, because of what these fucking, dipshit emos did to her. And so it's just, I think that's the thing, is that the creating the horror is just the atmospheres of where these women exist and their relationship. It really pays off at every turn for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what the heartbeat of the movie is.
Yes.
Like, there's no way to, like, exploring beyond just exploring dynamics of being a woman in the 21st century and having to deal with that. Or any period, I guess. It doesn't really matter.
Then just layer on high school on top of that, and you're like, Jesus Christ.
Being a woman, dealing with the fact that people are terrible, and then layering it with high school is just next level shit. But I think this is what's cool about this movie too, is it never descends into melodrama that isn't fully relatable. Like that, that earth-shattering thing you're talking about. Yes,
it knows the guardrails of what movie
so
it's making.
Well. Yeah. Like I never feel like we're just spinning out of control. It's a very contained narrative for something that is like kind of big. Mm-hmm. Like demonic possession can, I think we both know, we've watched enough of them, can spin out of control pretty quickly.
Demonic transference, dude. What were they doing? Even that. Think about that, dude. That moment. Like, what a cool choice is that Needy trying to protect and defend her friend's honor, saying she is a virgin. And that great scene where Jennifer's in the van, scared, traumatized because of the fire.
Dude.
And she's scared. She hears them, like, talking, like, hey, you don't have to talk. She knows she's getting driven somewhere. Her and Needy, that moment where Needy lets her go, like, you see the weight of that. We all, as an audience, are all like, fuck, that's
so cool.
That's real world scary.
Absolutely. That's like legitimately scary stuff.
But Jennifer does I'm a virgin, I don't know about sex things. And so her clinging on to, air quotes, virtue, we know is dooming her, because we know we're watching this kind of the game within the movie. But it's also one of those, it's this whole thing about these like virtues of, well, if you just choose abstinence and this and that, and you're like, that very kind of like conservative idea is the thing that makes her desirable prey. Like it's fucking real world scary.
Also, do you remember, I think this was the first movie I saw Adam Brody do that he was like a scumbag in. Like a true like scumbag character, because he had done the OC thing, and that was like who he was cast as.
So my wife and every one of her friends was obsessed with the OC. So I knew him in that. I don't think he was ever on my radar before that. This
might have been because now this is like his sort of like the character he plays in a lot of movies, just like a douchebag.
Well, kind of the super rich but like charming, funny nerd.
Yeah,
is not a role that most people like are super into. When you see like the guy who can play really well, like I'm handsome, but I'm relatable because I'm the size of a child.
But this
Yeah,
is what I
it's
like
like,
about
okay.
Adam Brody is like the hard left turn he takes to doing like movies like this. Like
It's a great choice for him. He's really
American
good
Fiction,
at this kind of
The
like,
League.
I'm
Like,
a disarming,
he's so good
cute
at this kind
guy,
of guy.
but like, I also judge and hate all of you.
Yeah, like that line. You said it already, but that line's like, yeah, if you don't want to talk, that's cool. Like I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, he's fucking great in this movie. Like he's
piece of
legit.
shit.
The cast of this movie is wonderful. He's really good.
Amazing.
It's a
Amazing
great
cast.
performance. But again, it's because like even the scene, and it's kind of the interesting Diablo Cody dynamic that I think this movie lands pretty well. But that scene of her being tied up and tortured by the, Devil's Kettle, right? The fucking butthole of the earth or whatever it's supposed to be. This vaginal opening that people just keep throwing things in and they never get back out. I'm like, is that a rape metaphor? All right, fair enough. Neither here nor there. Yeah, it's just aggressive, right? When you do podcasts, you're always thinking of things as like metaphors you can dissect on the show. Neither here nor there. That one was kind of gross. Just a wet, sloppy hole that won't let anything out. I was like, who's writing this movie?
God.
My dad? Yeah. Is my dad writing a fucking abstinence ad? I don't know. But they have her by the thing and they have her tied up. We'll just pretend that didn't happen. We're going to move right on. Moving right on.
Moving right on.
Or don't, because that's fucking write your thesis on that, children.
Just
You're
grab
welcome.
your pecan sandies and move right on.
Grab your pecan sandies and go get an A+ on your thesis papers. No, watching her tied up and the way they're just kind of flippantly like, hey, man, I want to be famous. I want to do this. And singing the Jenny song that's just punctuated in the middle of the, 8675309. And then just violently stabbing. Violence. And then just like tossing the knife. Like, it's so inconsequential the way they treat her body. I think that kind of stuff. And again, the Diablo Cody line is like making the joke during it. I think in this first half of the movie works much better because it's reminding us how omnipresent these kind of dangers are and how unseriously it feels like society takes these threats against young women, right? And
I think that's
the assaults and this and that. So that's where it works because the joke actually is reminding us of kind of the real world flippancy. I don't know, and I don't know your opinion, as it switches to where now Jennifer's body is the monstrous thing, which feels like a Survivor thing, right? Dealing with the trauma of that.
Sure.
I don't know that her making everything a joke works for me. It feels like an empowerment thing, but also I think in the second half of the movie, the kind of comedic tone starts to trip me up more, if that makes sense. I don't know your opinion on that.
I mean, I like it. I like the punctuation. Like, it's what it's used for a lot of the time in certain scenes. Like, I think that, like, when they describe when J.K. Simmons gets up and tells everyone that Jonas got, like, eaten in the woods or something like that, and she just starts laughing.
Yeah.
There's aspects to that. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this is sort of the demon taking over and so on and so forth. It's an interesting thing because, like, you spend so much of the beginning of the movie, like, living in this sort of terrifying trauma that when it switches to, like, more, like, traditional horror trope trauma and, like, more traditional horror in general, you're like, oh, my God. Like, getting here was so harrowing. Holy shit. And then having to relive it in the middle.
It's funny you mentioned that. It's like The Descent, right? It's the horror movie where when the monster shows up, you're like, oh, thank God. Like, now I can relax and just enjoy
now I have a
goofy
now I know
horror
exactly
movie.
what's happening. Yeah. It's
That's
like
a great point.
The beginning, and then when she describes what happens to her in the middle of the movie, I'm like, oh my God, this is so much worse than anything she, like, I just want her to eat people now. My God, please, just keep eating people. This is so terrible. Like,
just keep doing that.
It is so terrible. Like, it's violent and vicious and hateful, and, like, you're just like, this is...
I think if I had one like little complaint with the movie, and I think what I was saying about the second half, maybe it's not the comedy, because I think there is kind of a deadpan joke delivery that Jennifer accepts when she's not full.
Yeah.
It kind of works. It's like she's still going through the routine, but all she has in her mind is feeding. What I think it is I think the metaphor gets a little fucking stepped on. Where Jennifer's body is assaulted and degraded, right? in the second half of the movie is us pinning her as the monstrous one, where it feels like, are we blaming her for what happened? Needy feels like she's judging her now, like she's less than, she's like damaged goods. So it feels a little off. In the moment I would point to her, I was like, this was like one of those like missteps the movie just didn't fucking get right. I wanted Jennifer, who was the victim of this violent, horrifying crime, to not be the monster that Needy needs to slay in the fucking tub. I wanted Jennifer at prom, Carrie style, to fucking destroy Low Shoulder. Right? Like, there's kind of just the game the movie sets up felt a tad unwinnable. Right? Because what we want is Jennifer to get righteous fucking revenge. And even when they put it in the end credits that Needy now has become the demon, where Jennifer's trauma is passed on to her because she had to destroy her friend who was unfairly destroyed. It just gets a little muddy. And it's so that end credit thing with the death of Low Shoulder might be the least satisfying, least fulfilling promised moment in a movie for me.
I'll be honest, I disagree with that. I actually really I like that moment, and I like
movies that put interesting things with the credits at the end. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I agree. I like that Needy does it because again, this is because a lot of this movie too, especially towards the end, is about look. I think we all know until they say it even. Like they put it on Front Street at the end because that's the final part of the conflict, but like. Jennifer is not a good friend for Needy. Like, Needy is,
But see, that's it. Jennifer, by this trauma and by Needy in the second half, once she becomes a victim, we then literally reduce her to the high school mean girl cliche, right? And these genres are like great. It's Heathers and Mean Girls. Like, people love this story.
But
I think it's weird.
Even before Possession, Jennifer is not a great friend.
But we don't really have any, like, great evidence of that, right? They have this certain banter, right? Like, good cop, bad cop.
Well, but we do, though. Like, she's like, you can dress sexy, but not too sexy because I'm the star of the show. And also, I'm going to go, play hide my titty with the bartender to get drinks. And she shows up and she's trying to...
Sure. But let me run this by you, though. Let me run this by you because I think it's interesting that you bring this up because I wondered. So in the final scene, when they're like scissoring in the air and fighting, Needy brings like a box cutter, and it's like, dude, we worked on the wipe with those blades. Like, you could not. That's a terrible murder weapon. Neither here nor there. It's the moment when Needy pulls her BFF necklace off, and it's got a little blood on it. Jennifer, all of a sudden, it's as if she's depowered. Right? She sinks back. Needy does the fucking
last of her power.
She does the Ricky Steamboat Jr. like falling from the cage. Stabs her, and Jennifer doesn't defend herself, doesn't use her hell power. She just kind of leans back. So in a way, that moment where Needy rips the friendship for her, we see that it matters to Jennifer. Jennifer lets Needy defeat her in that moment, in my mind. I don't know if you agree with that take. But I was like, oh, Jennifer subsided. Jennifer let Needy destroy her. Because if Needy's willing to destroy her, that's the only person that made her more than the cliche.
But that's what it like. But that's what it is. Like that's what I was going to say is she's not a great friend. Needy isn't either, though. Like they both feed off each other. It's this bad feedback loop of like bad friends. They've just been together since they were kids.
Well, I get Megan Fox requires more work. I don't think that she's a bad friend. Like some friends just are more high maintenance than others. But do you think she actually
are called bad
doesn't?
Friends.
She doesn't. No, because I would say that I'm a more high maintenance friend than you. I don't think I'm a bad friend to you. I'm just high maintenance at times.
I don't think you're a high maintenance friend.
Well, that's great. I appreciate it. But what I'm saying is, I think what we're doing right now is we're questioning their actual bond as the movie starts, which I don't.
Taking the BFF necklace off is like the last. It's the last vestige of power that she has over this friend. This last piece of iconography that she has to prove that she's a person. When you eat when she eats Chip, that's sort of like, hey, come on. Like,
no, I get it. That's a very pointed attack. I'm with you. Once you eat her boyfriend, you are no longer a good friend.
Not a great friend thing.
That's a pretty shitty move.
But
there is something odd about the metaphor,
shared
which
trauma.
is Jennifer gets traumatized, and we turn her body monstrous. And I don't think she was.
But there's the shared trauma. But that's what it is. Needy Needy, it's not just, oh, I'm going to kill my friend Jennifer. It's, I'm going to get rid of this thing inside of her.
There is a thing like when you slay her, you're freeing her from the monster.
That's the friendship thing. I'm freeing my friend from the monster. So that happens.
Needy feels like she turns on her and like kind of hates her. Like that scene at the pool is actually really harsh to watch when they start really like going at each other full fucking like they just open up with words.
Yeah, but you know what? You and I have fought like that because that's what friends do sometimes. When you are friends with someone,
you to stop taking laxatives to lose weight. That's true.
When you obviously it didn't work. When you tell
it
your
wasn't
friends,
working. I was worried for. We're gonna need that Ozempic,
and not
dude.
Losing any weight was very unfortunate.
We're an Ozempic level threat, dude. We know it's not gonna work with excellent. Ozempic gets in our bodies, and it's like, dear God, we don't even have a union. We can't work in here. It's like, well, no. What I'm saying is I think.
That's like
I think it's one of the weird things in the movie that feels disconnected, and it's a story by two women. So I'm not sitting here to say that they are not aware of what they're saying. I'm saying to me as an audience member, I felt confused as to what I was supposed to take, that the world fucking destroyed this girl physically because of the cliche she was supposed to be. And turning her into the cliche monster that the Needy needed to attack.
Right. Well,
and she was everything everyone thought she was. It felt like her getting revenge for having been treated like a straight up slab of meat would have been a more cathartic and pointed journey.
I think it's a matter of, this is what because look, getting rid of the demon is the most important thing for Needy. Like, stop possessing my friend. Yeah. Like, there's a level of friendship that comes with that. Whether or not just because you fight, like, that's fighting doesn't change the fact that you're friends.
Well, some people say, right, we fight like siblings. It's a sign of like a deep bond, often, right?
That's a part of.
Let me run this by you. Another element to what I'm trying to say that I found weird. She only eats guys that are shown as pretty good. Like that football player Jonas doesn't give like classic date rapey, hurtful jock. He's just like a guy who's like, man, I'm fucking sad.
Okay.
She murders him.
The choice of food is actually, I find, very confusing.
Yeah, like the Indian exchange student who's just like, I'm alone. I've been through a harrowing event. Yeah, like he's just walking the streets of America and he's like, dear God, I'm so far from my family and friends, and like, what a fucked up thing. And Jennifer's like, cool, I'll eat him, and we won't even find his body.
To me, like the eating of people is sort of a little muddy.
Like Kyle Gallner and Chip, that gets into she's trying now to hurt Needy.
Well, Kyle Gallner,
this whole thing where like
is just putting him out of his misery.
They kiss like they used to, right? Like we'll play boyfriend girlfriend like we used to, and Needy's into it and pulls back. So it's like this, is Jennifer fighting back against guys that Needy had a crush on, but is that the fucking movie we're doing?
The eating of men, like the choice of eating is different. It doesn't really...
Yeah. I'm just saying watching her eat Low Shoulder is way more entertaining. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been cathartic or a little more interesting. However, I like that. This is why I like it as the thing that Needy does, because Needy at the end, like, it becomes about friendship again. Like she eats her boyfriend, the whole thing. They have this huge fight. She stabs her in the titty. That's like the whole bit. Literally, she goes, "My tat," which is great. Like like Andrea was Megan
like,
Fox is really good.
You gotta wait. You gotta wait.
Yeah.
For this.
Like in a way, she's never been good in anything else I've ever seen.
She's so good,
great in this movie.
She's so good, and I think that's what sucks is like nobody. I mean, Judd Apatow gave her a lot of room, and This Is 40. Like, she's a very good actress. I wish that she would get more shots, but whatever. People are garbage. What I like about Needy sort of taking revenge on Low Shoulder is it is that like final straw of like, I'm still friends with this person. Like, you guys victimized my friend and turned her into this thing because
so that was Lance Hendrickson in the car.
Dude,
right? And there's this moment where she's like, I'm traveling a band, because it's even like it's this subtle reminder that even he has this predatory eye on her. You're like, you don't cast Lance Hendrickson and give him that kind of like sultry look when she gets in if you're not telling me the world still has teeth for these young women.
See, I always thought it was a bit of a P-head reference, if I'm being honest.
I mean, for sure, he's a fucking horror icon, but when she gets in, he's like, yeah,
well,
must be some
but
kind
specifically Pumpkinhead as the method of vengeance.
Yeah, Needy becomes the fucking Pumpkinhead.
She was going to drive him out to the P-head thing.
I would
like,
love
do you want
to,
one for
if I had
vengeance?
more time, I would have loved to have watched like more behind the scenes stuff.
Sure.
And kind of see what, Kusama and Diablo Cody were keying in on. Like, why kill Jonas and make him a quasi-sympathetic character? Why kill Colm, who's a quasi... The only thing I could come up with, and even Chip, right? Chip is ready to cheat on Needy. Colm is like, I'll go with you to this abandoned house because he thinks he's going to fuck. Jonas is playing misery, but he goes to the woods and also like, yeah, pull my dick out, it's fine. So it is like this... She's got this trauma from her body.
Anybody who
dudes,
goes
like,
to a hookup
even if they
sesh
seem
seems
okay,
screaming weasels.
they're still just like walking hard-ons. But I was like, that's also not fair because every teenage dude is a walking hard-on. Some of them are just monsters about it, and some of us just are embarrassed and scared by it and trying to figure out like what to do with these things. So I thought the choice of victim that's what I mean. I think the movie is a fucking missile up until they wake up. When Jennifer has that great scene where she's trying to eat, she's howling, she's fucking throwing up a symbiote, right? That's like making geometric shapes. She has Needy up against, are you scared? Like that whole fucking sequence is awesome. Righteous. And then it wakes up the next day and Jennifer becomes a cliche monster we have to destroy who's hurting innocent, normal people. And I was like, maybe there's something there that just didn't connect with me. I would love to know what the kind of like mark was they were aiming for more. And I'm sure maybe, like my wife watched it. Maybe if we didn't go right to bed after and then pod right this morning, maybe she would have said, oh, I get that in a way that you don't. Right. To me, the second half of the movie just doesn't function as amazingly as the first half, I guess. And the whole Needy in jail thing, I wasn't like, what do you make of the Needy in jail stuff? That was not my...
Well, I mean...
Like, why is she fucking kicking that doctor? That doctor didn't do shit. She's just like, hey, man, you shouldn't just eat like a Toasty for breakfast. And she's like, Sparta! And fucking kicks the shit out of her over a table.
I fucking love that.
Like,
I think it's hilarious. Dude. I think it's hilarious.
Well, I was like, again, why does this movie love to injure nice people? Like, we don't see her being like a classic fucking asylum dickhead.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Nurse Ratched.
Hey,
but,
have you had a protein since you've been here? And Needy's like, fuck you! And kicks the shit
Sparta!
That fucking scene really caught me because I always forget about the prison open.
I always forget about the beginning of the movie.
I was just like, wait, what the fuck? I was
oh,
like,
Jesus.
Yeah, why is she cell block 99ing this poor doctor who's just like, I have a son? Ah!
Well, I mean, again... really it matters at the end because you're like, oh, there were consequences to like somebody walking in and seeing that she fucking killed this girl. I'm like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah,
sure.
It just, again, it's one of those, I feel like the opening, and this is the thing, right? When you write movies, a lot of people write killer first acts, second halves are tough, third acts are a magic trick. Any movie that is great from start to finish and has an amazing third act, that's why they're pros. That's why shit gets made. But, well, dude, you see great movies all the time that have bad endings. Long legs.
A movie has three parts. The first part is the pledge.
Yeah.
The pledge.
Yeah, the pledge. The payoff of the pledge. Yeah, it's fucking tough, dude. Third acts are tough.
Third part truly is
and
the
I
prestige.
think this is just one
like,
of those movies.
I don't know how to do it.
The thing is the fun never subsides. Like, the fun kind of like...
No, it's...
Jennifer's a demon. It's fucking fun
great
throughout.
Bits,
it's
great dialogue throughout. There's nothing wrong with that.
The thing is the movie's operating on multiple levels at the start. At a really high level. And the further we go into the movie, it feels like those layers kind of peel out. Like, I still appreciated the Jennifer Needy dynamic. These friends who had all this underlying shit they needed to say to each other. And, like, they kind of want to hurt each other, but they hate that they're doing it. There's something really kind of juicy about that, right? Like, it feels like we're getting, like, some real character work.
I think it's a dynamic that you and I are not... I think that this is the limits of our abilities as men. There's a dynamic that you and I are just not
I'm sure there are
equipped
things that,
to analyze.
the fair audience will see and just be like, yup.
Yeah.
To me, I was just like, why are you killing, like, nice kids now?
This is the disadvantage
in low
of
shoulders
two-
playing at a Carrie prom that Needy even says it's going to be an all-you-can-eat buffet. I felt like that's the scene I was promised in the movie and waiting for. I wanted Jennifer's monstrous transformation to pay back this fucking half a puddle of mud that's playing their prom.
I'd give you, like... I'd say, it's one of two things. Either thematically it just doesn't work for Diablo Cody and Kara Kusama's vision, or it's a budget thing. That's
yes,
it.
I know.
Like,
it's probably budget thing, but that's not as fun to talk about as a thematic.
No, it's not.
A lot of the things we talk about in movies, and we're like, why'd they make this choice? And it's like, money. It's always probably money.
Look, I'm not saying I want to talk about it. I'm saying that those are the two things that I can surmise, like, let's see, we could either do this ending with 3 people in a cool pool, or spend like $5 million.
So here's the thing, right? They say this is something they say about film directing, right? My buddy John reminded me of this. That every director has a sister art form that kind of influences their directing, right? Whether they're like editor director, writer director, actor director, whatever, right? I think podcasters have that a lot too. I think a lot of people that pod about movies have the kind of which part of the craft they wish they were doing, right? Directing, acting, whatever. I think our sister art, I think, is writing. And so I think we tackle a lot of, like, our pods from, like, if we were writing the story, why do they do these things? In reality, audience, anytime you've ever yelled at the computer, it's budget constraints. We know. We fucking know that it's budget.
I know.
I'm making movies too all the time. I get that there's
work
no
in
money.
Production for a living. I know it's the
money.
budget. There's literally never a time where we've watched a movie where I've been like, I wonder. Oh, money. That's why.
Yeah.
Like,
I just think
always
it's
money.
more interesting to discuss it as a story.
It is infinitely more interesting.
So in case you've ever yelled at the computer, we know. We're choosing to have a different conversation.
I'm fully aware that it's money.
We're talking about if we were reading it as a first draft, which a movie's really
there's 3 people in the world where money is never a problem. Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, and as of this podcast,
James
George
Cameron.
Miller. Oh, James Cameron. Sorry, George Miller.
James Cameron's just like, bury that dead actor. We'll get a new one. No, again, I think this movie is so fucking fun. It's so dynamic for a movie about an undead teenager. It still is so vivacious, right? Like there's just a real fucking energy and vibe. And I think, again, the thing that makes it play better than I remembered. I don't think I was picking up a lot of the kind of extra elements of that opening and how scary it was. As when did this fucking come out? I was a college-age teenager, whatever, when this came out. Let's see, when was this? This was 2009. So, okay, I was older. I was not a child anymore, but
we were about to.
I was young. I was 25 when this came out. I was still a young man. I was like at whatever age Chris Pratt is in the movie. That's how old I was. And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. But I don't think I was like thinking about it much more. I was still in that young, going to the bars, fucking partying all the time age. Now watching it, I see all of the extra stuff that they were doing that I wish would have manifested more in the second half. But again, they knew exactly the movie they were making, and it just tends crowd-pleasing horror game at the end. And it does.
Karen Kusama is just an exceptional director. Like, I do see, like you see shades of all the things she's gotten to do since then, and like particularly, like, I fucking love Yellow Jackets. I mean, so when they said that she was
probably her best movie, like she fucking rips in the Invitation.
When they said she was going to be directing Yellow Jackets, I'm like, sweet, I can't fucking wait, because like she is the perfect director for that based on this.
She does a lot of TV now. Like her TV credits are fucking righteous.
They're fucking stacked.
But yeah, she did Jennifer's Body, and then 6 years later was The Invitation. Right? Like, she's done a lot of really fucking cool. But yeah, so now it's a lot of, here, I got a list. *Halt and Catch Fire*, The Outsider, *In Treatment*.
Did she do a Star Wars?
*Dead Ringers*. Yeah, I think she was attached to one. I don't know that it came out. Or maybe she was writing on stuff. She also is a writer. She has 2 writing credits. So yeah, I'm not sure where she goes next, but man, fucking, yeah, she is a great director. And I think you see that in this. I think when Diablo Cody's work finds its way into great directors' hands, that's the recipe, right? I don't know. I really appreciated the viewing of this movie. I liked it a lot more, even if I think the thing that kept it from being a stone cold fucking classic. Like, the way we look back, and Heathers is an absolute classic. Like, I think Heathers was kind of a cult classic, but now we all hold Heathers in very high esteem. Right. Is because I think it's just a little more thematically focused. Agreed. Whereas this one, there is just something I couldn't get over about Jennifer's monstrous turn without any kind of reason for it beyond just we need a monster. And again, maybe for some of you found that. Either way, I just fucking love this movie, man. When I turn it on, it's so fun. Good. It's awesome. The cast is fucking great. The writing is fucking fun. And again, they know how to give us those great horror movie scenes. Like, this has some really good kind of horror set pieces, right? We know what's happening in every scene, but they still develop that tension and dread. It's a fucking great movie, man. I hope
it's awesome.
You all enjoyed Jennifer's Body as much as we did. That's it. We out of here. We've still got some more returns to school movies. We've got a comedy and some more serious fare. We're digging deep into school. Make sure you go to patreon.com. We have great commentary, great exclusives this month. Our patrons will be voting on. Our Tales from the Crypt miniseries, Tales from the Griff, is running right now. We're in the middle of season 4. We are gearing up for the October Mega Marathon. By the time you hear this, it will be about 6 weeks away. You guys know the deal. Every October, 31 days, 31 pods. You'll know that the pod has died when we don't meet our October offering, right? When we don't offer up proper, and then we become the monsters. That's when the show will be over. When we don't do our October Mega Marathon. So we're already recording a lot of that. We've got great stuff in store for you. You want to be fully revved up by the time we hit October. So make sure you go to patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod again. Make sure you go to all the socials, the YouTube Film Alchemist, the email filmalchemistpod@gmail.com, misfitparade.net to see if I'm in a town near you with one of our flicks. I'd love to meet you guys in person and watch some movies with you. Check out the shit we're doing on Looper. We're doing really fun video content over there. Always trying to work and hone that into be something that'll be great. More than anything, thanks for your time, guys. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Tandino.